Pastor Dan and his wife Rose had been married for many years. They were devoted Christians, known for their strong faith and dedication to saving souls. Pastor Dan was a well-respected man in the community, always preaching about repentance and warning people that the end of the world was near. He urged everyone to give their lives to Christ before it was too late. People loved Pastor Dan and his wife so much that they called them Daddy and Mummy. They were seen as spiritual parents to the entire church, always ready to help and guide their members. But while they were busy preaching and winning souls for Christ, their only son, Sam, was walking a completely different path. Sam was nothing like his parents. In fact, he was the black sheep of the family. While his father preached about righteousness and honesty, Sam was out stealing goats and chickens from people in the community. He would sneak into people's compounds at night, take their animals, and return home to cook and eat them while his parents were at church. Many people in the village knew about Sam's bad behavior, but out of respect for Pastor Dan and his wife, they kept quiet. No one wanted to be the one to tell the beloved pastor that his only son was a thief. Whenever Pastor Dan and Rose noticed that Sam was not behaving like a true Christian, they would sit him down and advise him. They would tell him, "Son, following God will make you a great man. Serving Him with all your heart is the only way to have a good life." Sam would nod his head and pretend to listen, but deep inside, he had no interest in changing. His parents believed that Sam was just like them, faithful and God-fearing. They had no idea that he was secretly bringing shame to their name. To them, he was their beloved son, and they trusted him. But the truth always has a way of coming out. And soon, something would happen that would expose Sam for who he truly was. One evening, while Pastor Dan and his wife Rose were at church, their son Sam was alone at home. He sat on a wooden bench, deep in thought. His stomach rumbled, and he licked his lips as he imagined the taste of roasted goat meat. "I need to eat something special today," Sam muttered to himself. "I think I need a hot meal now. A fat goat with sweet wine will be perfect." With that thought in mind, he decided to steal a goat from a neighbor's compound. He knew exactly where to go. There was an old woman who lived nearby, and she had the healthiest goats in the village. Under the cover of darkness, Sam sneaked into the old woman's compound. He moved quietly, careful not to make any noise. The goats were tied to a wooden post, chewing on some grass. Sam spotted a big fat one and grinned. "This one will be delicious," he whispered. Without wasting time, he untied the goat, carried it on his shoulders, and quickly left. He rushed back home, slaughtered the goat, and prepared a feast for himself. He roasted the meat over an open fire, the delicious aroma filling the air. He poured himself a cup of sweet wine and ate to his heart's content. Meanwhile, the old woman returned home and went straight to her goats. But something was wrong. One of them was missing. She searched everywhere, but the goat was nowhere to be found. The old woman was no ordinary woman. She was feared in the village because people believed she was a witch. Angry and frustrated, she stood in the middle of her compound and raised her hands to the sky. "Whoever has stolen my goat," she declared, "from this moment on, you will no longer desire human companionship. Instead, you will find joy only in the company of goats. You will love them more than anything else, and you will not stop until you are caught." A cold wind blew through the village as she spoke. A strange force filled the air, carrying her curse straight to Sam. That night, something changed in Sam. At first, he felt normal, but soon a strange desire crept into his heart. He could not understand it at first, but before long he found himself drawn to goats, not just for food, but in a way no normal person should be. At night, while his parents were at church, Sam would sneak out and bring goats into their house. He would lock the doors and spend time with them, feeling a strange sense of happiness. It became an obsession. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Sam no longer stole goats to eat, he stole them for companionship. He no longer cared about what was right or wrong. He no longer felt shame. His parents remained unaware of his dark secret. To them, Sam was still their beloved son. But in the village, whispers had started. People were beginning to notice strange things. The day that changed Sam's life forever started like any other. His parents, Pastor Dan and his wife Rose, had gone to church as usual along with their congregation. Sam, left alone at home, was in his room with a goat, indulging in his shameful secret. As he stroked the animal, whispering to it, he felt an unexplainable joy. The old woman's curse had completely taken over his mind. He no longer saw anything wrong with his actions. To him, the goat was his companion, his comfort. But fate had other plans. Suddenly, the front door burst open. Loud footsteps filled the house, and voices echoed through the rooms. Pastor Dan, his wife, and several church members had returned from service earlier than usual. They had come to check on something in the house before heading back to church. What they saw when they entered Sam's room made them freeze in shock. There, in the dimly lit room, was Sam, caught in the act with the goat. Gasps filled the house. The church members screamed in horror. Some covered their faces, unable to look. Others muttered prayers, rebuking what they had just witnessed. Pastor Dan stood motionless, his eyes wide with disbelief. His wife Rose fell to the floor, weeping bitterly. "No, no, this cannot be my son," Pastor Dan cried, his voice shaking with anger and disappointment. The shame and disgrace were too much to bear. The once respected pastor, the man who preached about righteousness and holiness, had a son who had sunk into the lowest form of depravity. In rage and heartbreak, Pastor Dan pointed a trembling finger at Sam. "You are no longer my son. From today onwards, I disown you. You are dead to me." Sam fell to his knees, his body shaking. The curse had blinded him for so long, but now as his father's words cut through the air, it was as if something inside him broke. The spell shattered. The old woman's curse left his body, and for the first time in months, he realized what he had done. He looked at the goat in horror, then at the disgusted faces of the people around him. Shame filled his soul. His hands trembled as he covered his face. "What have I done? Oh God, what have I done?" But it was too late. The villagers refused to let him stay among them. They believed his crime was too great, too evil. He had to be banished. That evening, a group of strong men from the village dragged Sam away. They took him deep into the dreaded evil forest, a place where criminals and outcasts were abandoned, never to be seen again. It was said that the spirits of the forest fed on the souls of the wicked, and no one who entered ever came out. As Sam was thrown into the darkness of the evil forest, he cried out, begging for mercy. "Father, Mother, please don't leave me here. I have realized my mistakes. Please forgive me." But no one listened. The villagers turned their backs and walked away, leaving him alone in the cursed land. That night, Sam sat on the cold, damp ground, his heart filled with regret. He wept bitterly, remembering how many times his parents had warned him, how many chances he had to change. If only he had listened. As the wind howled through the trees, Sam's body grew weak. He had no food, no water, no hope. The loneliness was unbearable. His heart, heavy with sorrow, finally gave up. And there, in the middle of the evil forest, Sam took his last breath. Back in the village, Pastor Dan and his wife grieved for a short while, but the shame of Sam's actions was too much. They decided to erase his memory from their hearts. Not long after, they adopted a new son, a boy who was kind, obedient, and God-fearing. They named him Joseph. Joseph became everything they had ever wanted in a child. He followed their teachings, grew up in the ways of God, and became a great man. The church continued to grow, and Pastor Dan and his wife never spoke of Sam again. It was as if he had never existed. Moral lessons 1. Disobedience leads to destruction. If Sam had listened to his parents and followed the right path, he would not have met such a tragic end. 2. The choices we make shape our future. Sam's actions led to his downfall. We must always make wise choices in life. 3. Respect your parents' teachings. Parents guide their children with love and wisdom. Ignoring them can lead to regret. 4. There are consequences for every action. Sam never thought he would get caught, but in the end, the truth came out, and he paid the price. 5. Evil may seem enjoyable for a moment, but it brings sorrow in the end. Sam thought he was enjoying life, but in the end, he suffered the most. Thank you so much for watching this story. I hope you learned something valuable from it. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Make sure you turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of my future stories. Stay tuned for more amazing and thought-provoking tales. See you in the next one.